Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. We're going to go through the agriculture and food security discussion. This is a very interesting one for me. Can I please invite Dr. Shedrick Mupili, who is the CEO and President of Agricultural Research Council. Can I then invite Mr. Leon Tiljard? If you are here, please can you come through? He's the Executive Director of Talmar Sustainable Developments. Then can I please have Mr. Tsiamo Dichabe, who is the Managing Director for Commercial Agriculture Youth Chamber. And in AFS, we are going to have a representative by the name of Nkutu Mbiko Mutshehwa. Yeah, I think I'm right. Who's the chairperson of AFASA National Women's Desk. So if Nkutu can please come through, and all our panel members welcome. Can we please welcome them with a round of applause? Okay, Tsiamo, are you here? Okay. Mr. Dichaba, thank you so much. All right, we've got exactly 20 minutes, 25 minutes for this discussion, so we'll keep it brief. To our panel members, welcome. Thank you so much for allocating time to be with us. What we'll do, perhaps we can just have your opening statement. Which organization are you from? What's the organization about? And what is your contribution to agriculture and food security in the African continent and South Africa as well? Thank you. We'll start with you, Dr. Shedrick.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shadrach Moepudi, just for correction.
Thank you so much, Doc.
I'm with the Agriculture Research Council, which is essentially a public entity that conducts research in the agriculture sector for all the commodities except sugar. And that is because the sugar industry have their own research station, and the forestry industry also have their own research institute. So everything you see on your plate, we conduct research on as long as we have the capabilities to do so. Our research is focused primarily on enabling the farmers to be productive in terms of increasing their yields, but also on developing solutions around pests and diseases, but also providing insights as to identifying the most suitable conditions under which agriculture production can happen. But beyond primary agriculture, we also do secondary research around agro-processing, which deals with post-harvest handling, storage, and processing of some of the agriculture products for purposes of enabling the farmers to manage and handle the product, both for the market, but also for purposes of enabling proper processing to develop new products and get it out there so that the consumers can have very good products out there. So we respond to the needs of the sector as and when they wish to see those particular needs and according to their priorities, and that is how we deliver those particular products. Let me stop there because the other issues I can deal with when we then discuss.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Doc.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ndutu Mbiko Mutshehwa. I'm a farmer, and I've availed myself to belong to organized agriculture under AFASA, which stands for African Farmers Association of South Africa. We are an organization that seeks to mobilize, be the voice of the black farmers across the country and within the SADC region to make sure that there's proper visibility of capable farmers, those that are aspiring, new role players, progressive farmers and commercial farmers, enhance them to an extent that they have a footprint towards our GDP. They have a footprint in all the elements of the value chain, both vertical and horizontal. As you know, agriculture plays a significant role. It has been for the past few years, contributing towards the GDP of our country. And if you can ask me how many of black people are there, there's less than 0.1. So we are in the process of making sure that that changes. We are in the process of making sure that economic transformation as black people, mainly as black women as well, we are part of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Siamo?
Yes, ma'am. Good day, colleagues. My name is Siamo Dichabe. I'm the Managing Director of the Commercial Agriculture Youth Chamber. The chamber was formed in 2006, and majority of what we've been doing is mainly on lobbying advocacy, trying to mainstream youth participation within the sector. At the international level, I'm also the South African representative for YPAD, that's Young Professionals for Agricultural Research and Development. At the continental level, we've been providing inputs and support towards the implementation of the Malebu Proclamation in terms of the CADEP, which is a NEPAD program for Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program. And then at the national level, we've also been providing a lot of inputs with regards to the policies that are aligned to mainstreaming and institutionalizing youth participation in the sector, including the Integrated Youth Development Strategy, the National Youth Accord, but also currently we are working very closely with the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery in the development of the draft comprehensive producer support program, which should be adopted hopefully by our parliament in the next couple of months.
Sure, phenomenal. Thank you very much. Okay, just to kickstart the session, I'll just ask one or two questions to the panel, and then we can then engage further as the audience. Dr. Muyepule, for me, I think the most fundamental thing that I'd need to know is how is your research assisting in food production, particularly for SMMEs or people that are looking basically to produce what they consume? Have you had approaches from people in the food industry? And also, most importantly, are we really looking to be food secure, or are we looking to have food sovereignty? Because food sovereignty says we are in control and we own the means of production. And food security is to say, yes, there are taxes and duties involved, and it's just to ensure that people have access to quality food, but that's not enough. So maybe we can just kickstart the conversation around that discussion. And to what's your experience with women in farming? If you're saying also, I know you spoke about black participation at less than 0.1%, but at the women's desk, what is the narrative that happens along that platform? And then when it comes to you, Mr. Dichaba, you just told us about a document that is about to be passed in Parliament. What has the youth participation been like? What have young people have today to say, about agriculture? What are these struggles, especially when it comes to an access point of view? Because I think I've heard a lot of young people say, we want to be involved, but we don't know how. It's too capital intensive. Where do we start? So what are the premises that have formed the policy that you are talking about and that will be presented to Cabinet? Okay, are there any questions in the audience regarding this panel discussion? Okay, I'll recognize you, sir, you're number 1. I'll recognize you, ma'am, you're number 2. You are number 3 and number 4. Let's start with this round, but I see you. I know I owe you from yesterday, ne? All right. Okay, we'll start with you, sir. So what we'll do, we'll just take all the questions so that you are able to answer once. Okay, yes, sir.
Good afternoon, panel. Panel, would you agree that the most environmental challenge that we have in South Africa today is water supply? And that is going to affect, obviously, agriculture directly. Given that the majority of the water that we are drinking at the moment in Gauteng is coming from Lesotho, the project in Lesotho, Katsi Dam, is already 15 years behind program in phase 2. We are, as a country, water short. We have maximized the amount of dams that we can build. We can't build anymore because we only have a certain percentage of rain. That, I'm sure you all know, some has got to flow into rivers, some you can buy, some you use for industry, some you use for human population, agriculture, etc. The problem that we are arising, and even in Johannesburg, in the next 5 years, we are going to have a water shortage in this city, in Johannesburg. What does the panel suggest?
Okay, thank you very much for that. Number 2.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to compliment DAF. I think they're the best run department, actually. I've great respect for them. My question is, how do you foresee that the Africa Free Trade Agreement will actually assist agriculture and manufacture? And is that a way for small SMEs to actually become involved? And then secondly, is there a way for your department to verify the research that's done, for example, by the Sugar Research Institute? Because I think you know more than anyone else the pressure that producers of sugarcane is under. And it is largely because of faulty international research on sugar and health issues, which I will not go into now. Thank you very much.
Okay, question number 3.
Good afternoon. Doc, in the climate change that we are experiencing, I think you'd know that the maize farmers really have not done well this season. Most have not planted much hectareage as compared to other seasons. In your research and obviously the work that you do around climate change and that sort, what influence or how are you influencing policies in government to sort of move towards more of precision farming rather than us, our farmers, rather planting and praying for the rain, which doesn't quite come or comes very late? How are you influencing, or what are your, how's your work sort of influencing the policy makers? And the second question is towards AFASA as well as Tiamo. I come from a funding house, a DFR, right? And one of the challenges that we mostly face when we fund, especially in the agri space, is that we've got a lot of people wanting to come and access our funding, but you'll find that the skills then are not quite there. The farming skills, the marketing skills. How is AFASA as well as the chamber sort of integrating themselves where skills are concerned, as well as aligning themselves to these funding houses? Because we are just that, we are funding houses. We don't quite have the expertise to train or whatnot. We may source, but our primary sort of basis of what we do is funding.
Sure.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, sis. Okay. Question number 4.
Good afternoon. My question is for the doctor and also for AFASA. We have a lot of informal farmers in the townships and in the rural areas. My question is, have you guys done a research in terms of the database of how many people do we have, and also what are the interventions to bring them to formal farming? And there's also programs that are funded by the likes of CEDA, for an example. In Limpopo, there's one. It's a cooperative that they are farming grapes. But I just want to know if will those people ever get to a point whereby they supply maybe a wine manufacturer, or is there any integration between all these government agencies to talk to each other in terms of what is happening in the sector? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sir, in the red shirt, can you just ask your question? And I think we'll leave it at yours. Are there any other questions, maybe? Just so people don't feel I'm excluding them. Okay, so we'll take the last two, okay? So it's you and then the last two. All right.
Hello, my name is George. I want to ask the panel, well, as much as we're talking about growth, empowering SMEs in the agriculture, my question is, I want to know that since we are not eating the quality food that are coming from this agriculture, the GMOs, which are practically the source of so many diseases that today that are dying from, what form of methods have you actually put in place to try to improve the type of food that we eat that are actually threatening our lives on a daily basis?
Ish, powerful question. We must just go to vendor, eh? Life's easier there with crop and food. Really. Okay, yes, sir, and then we'll end with you. Yes.
Okay, good day, everyone. My name is Laki Sitole. I'm from Department of Correctional Services under Agriculture section. We are producing vegetables for self-sufficiency for the offenders. Then my question is directed to ARC. I just want to know, what are the chances for them to come and conduct research from the vegetables that we're producing?
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you. Last question.
Thank you. I didn't hear the question from the gentleman in the red, but I've got a feeling that our questions might be similar, but I'll just be quick anyway.
If you are a warden at a correctional services, then it'll probably be the same question.
Okay, no.
I'm joking. No, sorry. Go ahead.
So my concern is that our food is getting a bit less healthy. It's got a lot of GMO and
Sure.
everything in there. So I'm wondering whether the research that's being done and the integrity thereof, are you training the people to maintain that integrity and so that we can trust our food? And I'm thinking large farmers, they're doing this mass production thing, and I'm also thinking about the question the lady with the beautiful blue headband had. Why don't we empower the smaller people in the townships to produce more fresh vegetables, fruits, everything to local environments? Then we also have a better food integrity, and we know everything is fresh and healthy, and it's not farmed wherever far.
Sure.
And yeah, so it's just a combination of empowerment and food integrity question, if you can please.
That's a very
address
important
that.
question you're asking, because actually our townships now, we used to have grass and everything. Now there's cement. People are busy with double stories and putting cement as if it's fashionable. So you're thinking about parking and not your stomach. You know, very sad. Okay, to the panel. The doctor is just thinking, yeah, this lady is very crazy. But please go ahead, Doc. Please include your final remarks as you answer the questions. Thank you.
Thanks. I was trying to negotiate with my colleague here to say ladies first, but she's refusing. So don't say I didn't try. Yeah, maybe let me briefly start by indicating that in the Agriculture Research Council, we do a lot of training, education and training. We have a number of short courses, and I think one of the ladies that got a hamper here, what's her name, Tembi? Oh, she's here.
Yes, the one they
She
tried to
runs a
grab.
number of those training courses that are actually, these are short training courses that are accredited,
Okay.
that are dedicated to the different sectors in the agriculture sector. They're focused around production. They're focused around achieving certain technical know-how in order for you to do certain things on your farm, but also to help farmers sometimes. But then we also have fairly high-level courses where we have about 300 students that are doing their PhD and master's degrees in the ARC. Now, why in the ARC? Because the manner in which we do our training is very different, at that level. It's applied rather than theoretical.
Okay.
So they get a master's degree say, on something that has to do with animal production or animal reproduction, which is a lot more applied than it is a theory. This year alone, we graduated about 57 students with master's degrees, and 10 with PhDs. On average, we graduate about 15 with PhDs and about 20 with master's degrees. And then we also train our own staff as an organization. We've got about 3,000 staff for a number of things, in a number, like any organization. Soft skills, people management, for them to be functional, accounting, and so on, through a variety of different service providers. So at a minimum, just globally, those are some of the things we do. You can visit our booth. They can probably give you more details around that. Let me now focus on the questions that were raised from the floor. You know, the debate around food secure versus food sovereignty is actually an economic debate than it is actually a scientific debate.
Okay.
So it's a debate actually that is also political in nature, because it's a debate in the World Trade Organization.
Sure, that's true.
So from where I'm sitting, I think it's important that we separate the two issues. On the one hand, food security is about the capability to be able to produce food as a country, but you can still be food secure when you're not producing the food.
Okay.
I'll give you a very simple example. I don't know how many of you are aware that the UK has not been a major food producer for more than 60 years.
True.
It depends on importing the food, which means it buys the food. Now, are they food sovereign or not? So you've got to deal and decide with those kinds of issues. But they're dealing with food security. So you've got to actually be very nuanced and focused exactly in terms of your understanding of what you want to achieve in terms of whether you want to be food secure or food sovereign.
Okay.
You know, from our side as the Agriculture Research Council, our primary focus has been around food security for the country, which is largely around production, productivity.
Sure.
And then from there, we can deal with those other issues. The issues around water are very important, and I'm going to combine this particular response to the question around climate change, you know, because they're interrelated. Yes, we are a country that is water scarce in general. And by the way, but for correction, the Gante Dam itself, when it started getting built, was more than 20 years behind, because the project originates from 1956. Now, in terms of water shortage and suggestions, I think part of what we're doing as part of our research in the Agriculture Research Council is to begin to explore if we can produce some of those maize varieties or crop varieties that actually would enable the plant to produce more plant or more food per crop, per drop of water. In other words, resource use efficiency, improving the efficiency with which the plant draw the water and grow, rather than for them to grow to use more water, so that you reduce that particular aspect. And one of those was the fact that we've, for the last 8 years, we've been working on a project which actually is already out there. The farmers are using it in terms of its product, where we ended up with a number of maize varieties under a project that we called Water Efficient Maize for Africa, which was to develop maize varieties that are 20% more drought tolerant than any other varieties of maize out there. And this is targeted at enabling the smallholder farmer to be much more productive in terms of their yields under drought conditions. So those are some of the things that we are doing. And we're not just doing this for the maize, we're doing that for a whole range of other different types of crops that people are growing and eating in the country. That actually links to the question that was raised around climate change, because it's a response that we're trying to make the farmers to be able to be resilient to climate change.
Sure.
Now remember, the impact of climate change is not only around drought. There's also issues around floods. There's also issues around the fact that in some instances your soils change in composition to becoming a lot more salty, salinity, in which case that makes it very difficult for certain crops to grow under those conditions. So how do you change that? But there's also the effect that climate change also increases temperature. You've seen much more hotter climates around our environment, and therefore you need to find a way in which some of the crops that you grow can actually grow under much hotter climates. So we've developed what we call low-chill apples. So in order for you to grow apples, you actually need, under the old system or under the current system, you actually need to grow them in a condition under which they need to be exposed, the trees need to be exposed for a particular point in time to very low temperatures in the winter. So that then stimulates what a process that we call vinalization, which then enables them to fruit shortly after the end of the winter. But if the temperatures don't go cold enough, then you're not going to get the fruit. So the question is, how do you grow new apples that can grow under warmer climates? And that's part and parcel of the research that we're doing. Now, obviously, that also means you need to also explore ways in which, as you collecting this data and information, you need to advise the policymakers on what instruments need to be used to influence behavioral change by us, the population, but also by the farmers. One of those is to encourage conservation agriculture or no-till agriculture and incentivize farmers in terms of the diesel rebates, that if they practice no-till farming, the rebate will be higher. But if they don't practice no-till farming, they don't get the rebate. So that's an important policy intervention that you can bring to the farmers to influence their behavior and also save costs, but also enable them to get there. That also involves things like precision farming and so on. The informal farmers and database, we get databases based on the various provincial authorities that have some of the information about the farmers. We're increasing a lot of the projects that we're running with smallholder farmers. A lot of the training courses that Tembi runs are targeted at smallholder farmers. The intention is to try also to influence various government departments to buy from these particular farmers, particularly the members of AFASA. We are not in that space ourselves. The best that we can do is influence the different government departments that these are capable farmers that are producing good quality foods and so on. We're running a project together with the Australians as well as the National Agriculture Marketing Council and the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, where we have actually brought on board your big supermarket like Woolworths and Pick and Pay. And largely what we are trying to do in that particular project is to demonstrate to Woolworths and Pick and Pay that the quality of the meat coming from these smallholder farmers that have gone through our training, but also who have also participated in our breeding program for breeding their animals, they are producing good quality meat that actually needs to be on their shelves. So we're working on that. It's a project that we are running now. We've been running now for about 3 years and so on. We have a very open media in the country, and the internet actually is full of a lot of information that is actually unverified. You can say anything and put it on the internet. Okay. Whether it's accurate or not accurate doesn't matter. So simply because the food is perhaps a GMO doesn't mean it is not good quality food. I think we need to understand the science around that, and I would suggest that we focus around really getting verified scientific information in order for us to use that particular information. The invitation to work with the correctional services, my colleagues will follow up.
Sure.
And then we can deal with it. I think the issues around township farmers being productive, I think there's a whole range of tools and techniques that can be used. We're working with the Gauteng Department of Agriculture on this particular matter, looking at things such as hydroponic, vertical farming, and so on. Okay. Let my colleagues to deal with the rest of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you very much. Ndutu, I know that Tsiamo has to rush quickly. Are you okay? Okay, so you can continue again with your closing remarks and answering the questions.
Thank you, Tsiema. I had to allow the doctor to speak first because he's also our landlord. So in case Afasa can't pay rent month end, he will know I've done some favors. But yeah, in as far as women participation within Afasa is concerned, one of our main mandate is to really interrogate the existing policies, right? Because as a farmer myself, who've been in the business for the past 10 years, I've realized that no matter how innovative you are or how passionate you are on the policy level, if our issues are not addressed, we might as well just leave it. So we're busy interrogating the policies with the intent to influence and make sure that it enables women to participate in agriculture. I'll make a few examples. We're busy talking to stakeholders like COPTA, which is hosting most of our rural women. Those rural women, they've got a very valued asset at their disposal, which is land. And most of them, indeed, it is arable land, both in provinces like Eastern Cape and Limpopo. But then you have policies within those stakeholders that are not really conducive for women. So we're approaching them to say, don't box women to 10 hectare size of hectares. You have land restitution beneficiaries here who have the capabilities of being active in both in wildlife, economy and agriculture so that they're able to be food sufficient and self-sufficient as well, and those who have a willingness or capabilities to gradually grow to the commercial space can be active as well. So that's what we are doing in terms of the policy. And the second mandate will be then the resource mobilization, which will be your land, market intelligence, water, and finance models. You would hear all the departments, all the sectors, they do have programs for women. But what they haven't looked at is really why are we not participating, the criteria on which those programs were developed. Such organizations like AFASA and other organizations were not involved. And it is when we appreciate institutions like IRC under the leadership of Dr. Meputi, who is willing to hear and say, how can we improve your participation better as women or as black farmers in the sector? The finance models that are there, you would have to have collateral and all the necessary information that is required to be in agribusiness. And yes, again, as women, we've never had ownership to land. Some have never even have access to a proper employment. So we are having a program where we are saying, let's have a coherent program where we include women from the rural areas and women who have access to finance and say, how do we best collaborate together and make sure that our participation really is one that is visible within the sector. And also we're talking to Land Bank to say, yes, you're a commercial bank, but then you need to also consider that you need to play a developmental role in as far as the policies for funding is concerned. So we are working on those programs as well.
Sure.
And about the climate change, we're also encouraging people to come and say, when you talk of innovation, what are the urban models of farming? Like Dr. Mubudi has already illustrated that there is vertical farming, but also there's so much indigenous knowledge within both rural and informal sectors that haven't been exploited yet. I always say McDonald's came with burgers, Mug and Bean came with food strips, but we also came with Imbizo Chisanyama. That is a female-owned enterprise. But how many women are even able to supply those kind of business enterprises? So we appeal to women and funders out there and also skills development program to say, how best do we extract value from the money that is spent to this skills program development? Because if we ignore agriculture, then I feel that we might as well then just leave everything. Because as we are sitting there, agriculture has played a role in furniture, agriculture has played a role in what we are wearing, what we are breathing. So it is the main core of our existence. And in as far as informal and rural intervention are concerned, we are busy with the help of IRC to come up with an aggregated procurement platform where we say farmers, whether you're online or offline, whether you have access to the smartphone or not, you should be able to gain access. So our approach is that of a market-driven approach. What does the market demands? And how do we exploit innovation to make sure that it is aligned with the demand and with the research, so that at the end of the day, whatever skills that people are acquiring out there, there's value and there's impact in terms of the society as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tiamo, just quickly to close, yeah, and answer questions.
Thank you, Program Director. I'll try to be as brief as possible and try to encompass all the questions into one answer from a highest level as possible. Okay, according to the question basically that I understood and just putting them together, it was what was the premise to have youth participation in the agriculture sector, and how do we ensure youth participation in the agriculture sector? You know, there's been a lot of programs that we've tried to implement over the years, including your young professionals, WAD, Women in Agriculture for Research and Development. And through those kinds of programs, we were able to ensure that we can mainstream more youth participation into the sector. But because of lack of access to finance, as my colleagues already said, it has become very difficult for young people to get into the agriculture sector. As you know, agriculture sector is not such a glamorous industry, and some of our young people obviously are not tilting or wanting to go towards the sector because of the unglamorous element of it. Sure. But at the United Nations level, what we've discovered with FAO is that we need to strengthen the capacity of young people at all levels to carry out and benefit from responsible agricultural investment, because the investment is there, but there isn't enough capacity on the ground. So we are working on training programs, including, like I indicated before, the policy that will be adopted shortly in the next coming 2 months, that will provide those direct support and training capacities to mainstream women and youth participation in the sector.
Okay. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Can we give it up for the Agriculture and Food Security panel? There is Dr. Shedrick Nepulo and Tsiamo Dichaba, as well as Her Excellency Ndutu. Thank you very much for that.